Okay, welcome. Module 4. I don't want to sort of spoil you with the view, but that's Breckenridge out the back there, so I'll try and get this done before the others come back. Marketing, media and tourism, sports tourism, very much combined, and in this section what we're going to do is going to go through the marketing part first. For those of you who did sports marketing, introduction to sports marketing during last semester, some of this will be a repeat. I do apologise for that, but it is all part of sports management. And as with any organisation, we need not only skills in accounting and finance, we need skills in marketing, and we need skills in media. We also need skills in human resources and other things. These are all interlinked, and a business works well when it has the full facilities of all the things that might come into the picture for it. So, by definition, marketing is a social and managerial process by which individuals and groups obtain what they need and want through creating and exchanging products and value for others. If you go way back, basically cavemen, some of them could run fast and throw spears, so they brought fresh meat back to the cave. Others who didn't run quite so fast and maybe got tripped up by a saber-toothed tiger, they could only just go and get, spend their day sharpening spears and arrows and things, and others would go into the forest and forage. So provided they all came together and exchanged, then we ended up with a balanced meal and sharp spears and arrows, and that's the way that it works. And the only difference today, really, in the things that we do is in effect, is the fact that we put money in the middle, and that allows us to choose the things that we buy with the money that we get from our endeavours. And that's the way that it works. Marketing should be engaged across all sectors of the organisation. Every employee, volunteer and stakeholder should also be a marketer for the organisation. This is a very critical point, because anybody who represents your organisation, be it in a sporting team, be it the players, be it the administration people, be it your advertising people and everything else, they represent and reflect the message you're trying to get through to the people that are a part of that. So you do need to be very cautious of who you bring into the environment, and that they understand the expectations of them in reflecting your team or your club. Everyone reflects this, and if you don't understand that, you'll see what happens when players misbehave, people do the wrong thing, then the club reacts very violently towards them, because it's creating a massive problem for the club themselves. Now, marketing is a strategic sports marketing process, the identification of marketing opportunities, and clearly today, we have the basic ones, putting bums on seats in the stadium, but also, more importantly, merchandise and other things that we do to bring sort of identification of our club into many homes. And so that's a very important part of it. So we've also got to have a strategy for this, and that strategy implementation has got to be put together. It's then got to be implemented, and then we've got to potentially adjust it if it's not working, or if we'd like it to work better, or in fact, if it's causing us great success, then we've got to learn the lessons from that to make sure that we can continue to do it. So, in effect, we first off got to identify these opportunities. 4 steps: analyse the environment. What forces are outside our control that will affect us? We talk about the pestle forces, the macro environment, things like the economy, things like technology changes, and this is very true in terms of the sports environment, because television and delayed telecasts and other things can have a big impact on people's enjoyment of a game. So the inability to get to a game on a Saturday afternoon may be replaced by taking on pay television services and other things. So people that are working on weekends, for instance, who can't get to games, will take on pay television, and therefore they get to see all the games of their team. We've also got to consider the competition. And as we've spoken about before in this series, the fact is that our competition in the sports arena, the other teams, are not only our competitors, but they're also our partners in delivering the service or the entertainment to the other teams, to the spectators. and all the publics, all the people that are involved and are relying on the things that are going to happen within our sport. We've also got to understand ourselves. We've got to understand what our mission is, what we're intending to do. We've got to have objectives, and we've got to have our SWOT analysis, our strengths and our weaknesses, and then we've got to look at the opportunities and threats that we might be able to take advantage of, or that may cause us an inability to achieve the things that we want to achieve. Once we've done that, we've done some market research, we should be able to determine the objectives that are likely to occur. It's no point in us trying to create things that we know that we cannot achieve, because it's wishful thinking, it's guessing, and we can't have that in a business environment. Luck plays a part, there's no doubt, in business, but where we can do proper research, we understand the market, we understand our situation and what we can offer, then we're more likely to be able to determine our objectives and then most importantly achieve them, and that's a very important part of it. We've also got to analyse the environment, understand the external forces at work in the economy and specific industry. So as we said, the pestle environment, political, economic, socio-cultural, I should say, technological, environmental and legal. Now, in sports generally, the impact of politics is fairly minimal. Having said that, politicians love to turn up at games and wave to the crowd. Oftentimes they get booed, of course. But politicians do have an influence on supporting the building of new facilities, and they control the purse strings for large amounts of money that can be used for sport. So the political environment has an impact potentially on sport in that way. Economic environment has a variant different ways that it can affect the sport. Certainly when people have got good jobs, they're earning plenty of money, then they will pay for entertainment. And if that entertainment includes going to games and spending money on merchandise and everything else, that's a good thing for us. The socio-cultural environment obviously impacts things like an ageing population who may go from attending games regularly to watching more on pay television. It also takes into consideration bringing women into sports, initially as spectators, but now in many cases as players. And we now have the women's leagues, both in, across the realm of footballs. So, AFL, soccer, rugby league and rugby union, and sevens. The sevens girls won the gold medal at the Olympics. So basically, you've now got these changes that are going on in terms of participation as well. And the beauty of that is when they have children, they'll be brought directly into the sports because the expectation is, well, your mother played, your father played, we just expect you to play. And that's what we will expect to see in things going forward. Technology we've touched on a couple of times already in this course is a vital part of selling sport today and a vital part in terms of the economic part. We know that AFL and rugby league getting well in excess of $1 billion for television rights over multiple years, and this is a substantial value for the sport, allows it to progress, allows it to continue to advertise and promote, and allows it to foster the juniors coming through, and it's very important. Environmental and legal tends to be stuck on the back of political in most cases. Environmental is an important one today because there are a lot of people who are concerned about appropriate environmental behaviour by everybody. And so we do need to be careful in the things that we do, that we are recycling, we are waste conscious and everything else, because that's an important part of the things that we need to offer the community. Now, industry forces, we talk about 5 industry forces in the intensity of competition. If you're in a sport or any business environment where there is a large level of competition, that is going to make life harder for you. Having said that, it also makes us better generally. And it's interesting, those industries where they have very strong competition, the products that get delivered to us get better and better all the time. Because they have to. Because if they didn't, they just disappear. And so that's an important part of it. The next thing is the bargaining power of buyers. Can consumers dictate the price or the quality? Well, in watching a football game, we can not control the quality. But what we can dictate is the price that we're willing to pay. So if the price of going to a game goes to $100, people will opt not to go to the game and they will take pay television. So they do have a controlling, I guess, influence over the pricing. Occurs when there are many suppliers of similar products, and if we consider that the football codes are entertainment, that's going to be an issue for them. There's no doubt about that. The threat of substitute products. Are there many easily substitutable products of similar markets, or in the marketplace? Can league be replaced by union or AFL or by soccer? Interestingly enough, I'm in the United States at the moment. They really are pushing the soccer thing, have done for quite a few years now, a couple of decades. And it's getting legs, there's no doubt about that. But NFL is still their major football. There's no doubt about that. Super Bowl on in a couple of weeks. I'll be here for Super Bowl Sunday, so that should be fun. It always is. And so, but in Australia, these 4 codes are still relatively strong. You could argue that there's been some mismanagement of some of these codes over the last little while, but they are fiercely competitive with each other. And so, we understand that there are potential substitutes and players now moving from code to code with specific skill sets that may be applicable in another code. In terms of the bargaining power of suppliers, can suppliers dictate price, quality or quantity of the product? Usually only occurs in a monopoly situation or if there's a bottleneck. We certainly can do that at the end of the season for finals and other things. We can dictate the price and other things. It's difficult for us to control the quality, and there's no doubt about that. And the last one of these things is the threat of new entrants. It's easy to enter the market. Obviously, other people can go and do that. The examples they said here, World Series Cricket and Super League, it wasn't easy for them to enter the market. There was a huge amount of money behind them in doing that, and that became very difficult for them. But they were able to do it because of the power of the funding that they had behind them. Now, in terms of analysing organisations, we've spoken about mission, vision and objectives before, but obviously our SWOT analysis needs to be very specific, measurable, achievable, realistic and timely. So it needs to be SMART. And these tools you've already had a look at and should be familiar with by now, and hopefully they're also going to be in your assignments. The next thing we've got to look at, of course, is market research. Who are the consumers in the marketplace? What do they purchase? Why do they choose a particular product? And when and where do they consume it? And the fact is that in terms of sport, we have a range of choices in the marketplace, and we're trying to appeal to a particular group. And sometimes, of course, that is seasonal choice. So cricket in the summer and tennis at the moment with the Australian Open on. And at other times, we've, of course, got a substantial amount of activity going on in the football codes. So when people choose to consume it, might be an impact on whether people actually go to a game or whether they want to consume it on pay television. And that has an impact. There's no doubt about that. How the product is used by the consumer? Well, in terms of football code and something like that, it's basically a watching of the sport, but in other things that they may be doing things in a different way. And these are basically the basic market research questions that we've got to ask ourselves. Who are our customers and how do we approach them? And of course, one of the issues with this is if we're pitching to a particular age group, they are using different forms of media. Quite clearly, the radio stations that you listen to are going to be different to the radio stations that your parents listen to, the types of websites that you go to and everything else. So we do need to understand the media behaviour, if you like, of our potential consumers, and that becomes an important part of it. Because if we don't, then we're going to be pitching to areas where there's no interest. The market research is made up of several things. Certainly, the initial part is to go and collect the data, and we can do that in a raft of different ways. We can run surveys, focus groups, interviews. We can observe, and we can often observe with an interview afterwards, so we can watch what people do, and then we can pull them aside and ask them why did you buy that product? Why did you come to this game? And that type of thing. And that allows us to get a deeper view of why people are doing what they're doing. Once we start doing that, we end up with segmenting of the market. And this is the process of dividing the total heterogeneous market into a marketplace for a product or service into smaller segments, each of which tends to be homogeneous in all similar aspects. So demographics, obviously, age, gender, lifestyle, income, and other things. But then the psychographics, how we like to live our lives. And you would know, you've got friends who like to go to nightclubs and go to concerts and go to the movies and things like that. And then you will have friends who like to do outdoor things. So if they're not out on a football field, they're going to the gym, they're surfing, they're going snowboarding in the winter, they're doing all sorts of things. So their lifestyle is completely different from those who are doing the nightclub concert type thing. Doesn't mean that the people who like nightclubs won't go snowboard. It doesn't mean the people who like surfing won't go to a concert. It just means that given that they had a choice, they would probably spend their money on the things that they like to do themselves. And in fact, generally, their friends are people who like to do the same things that they like to do. One of the best things that we can do in terms of segmenting a market is look at behaviour. So if 50,000 people a week are coming to your home game, clearly that's a behaviour. And so we want to make sure that they continue to do that so that we don't lose them in the future. So what happens after that is we determine our basic marketing objectives. 4 generic objectives, if you like. We want to maintain our position in the marketplace. Attractive market and attractive position within the marketplace. We would invest and support your product to remain in the said position. So if we're one of the major AFL teams, we want to maintain our market share, our membership, get people to continue to come to the games and enjoy themselves and to continue to buy our merchandise. In some cases, of course, we want to improve our position. When you think of the teams that are not Victorian-based, particularly the ones in Queensland and New South Wales, they are busy and have been for some years trying to improve their position in the marketplace. Attractive market, not such a strong position because the other football codes are long established there. So they've got to invest to use your product to improve the position in the marketplace. Now that may include doing all sorts of things in the market. Maintaining the profit is the next thing. Non-attractive market but strong position. Effective marketing and sales returns good near-term profit. And if none of this is working, one of the things we need to do is exit the market. The market's not very attractive and we don't have a very good position in it, get out. Because you're only going to lose money as you continue, as your overheads grow and you don't make any money. So once we've done this analysis, what we've got to do is determine the strategy that we're going to take forward. So that we made up of the type of product that we're going to offer and the price. If it's a service that we're offering, we're going to talk about the place where that service is offered, the physical evidence that we might show. And in a football club, that will be the ground and the environment in which we get people to come along, the people that we have that deliver the service. Now, a football team, that includes the players. So it's a very important part of our team, but also the people that do the ticketing, do our promotions, do our on-field entertainment and other things. That's an important variable that we might be able to improve. The process that people have to go through. These days, people are lazy. They want things provided for them in an easy manner. So if you can make the process of buying tickets easy, people will do that. If you have people queue up for an hour to get into the ground, that's not easy. So allowing people to buy online and other situations like that allows them to pay conveniently, get their tickets, print their tickets out and just scan the barcode as they come through. It makes it easier. And of course, one of the things that comes off the back of this, if we get it right, is a high level of customer satisfaction. And that's critical for us. We need to make sure that what we deliver to the marketplace is seriously good value for those people. And so that's a very important part of it. The next thing, of course, is once we've got this strategy, is we've got to determine our tactics and our benchmarks, what we expect to get. Mr. Ansoff in 1957 produced this product market expansion grid, a strategy model that's widely used. So we have existing markets with existing products. We want a higher market share, market penetration. Where we've got an existing market, but we've got a new product for that market, this is product development. Think about Tim Tams bringing out a new flavour, product development. Where we've got a new market with an existing product, this is market development. Think about a few years ago, Nintendo DS trying to sell to 60-year-olds, baby boomers. Why were they trying to sell it to them? Brain training, so they don't get dementia and become senile. And sometimes we have new products in a completely new market, and this is a complete diversification from the things that we do. That's the hardest thing to do, but oftentimes, one of the most successful, there's no doubt about that. Just continuing on from Ansoff, what we want to do with market penetration is make more sales to existing customers, market development, inexpensive ways of creating new products, maybe going interstate, maybe going on the internet to sell, maybe making new flavours. Product development, modify, differentiate the product or introduce a new product into an existing marketplace. 2020 cricket is a good example. And then finally, product diversification, develop a new product for a market. Marketing mix or 4 Ps, we don't, in fact, we go away from the 4 Ps now. We've got 7 Ps. The first one is product, characteristics that are beneficial or valuable to consumers, the price that reflects, hopefully, consumer value, the place, the distribution, right place at the right time to facilitate the purchase, and physical evidence, the tangible cues the product provides, looks good and looks like it will do what it says it will do, and the aesthetics, the process, real-time service product delivery, convergence of marketing and operations, people, those that sell or deliver the product to the consumer, hopefully with the right attitude and appearance, and finally, promotion. Now, for a physical product, we only have product, price, place, promotion. But once you bring in services or entertainment, you've got the physical evidence. In other words, the environment, the process, how easy it is for people to get tickets and to get to the ground, the transport and everything else, and the people that serve them. And that's a very vital part of it. Some of the unique sports characteristics, of course, in a market, it's competition and cooperation. As we said, not only are you competitors, but you're also partners in the business. Consumers consider themselves experts. This is a challenge for the media within the sports industry. Everybody believes they know more about the sport than the people who write about it. And a wide fluctuation of demand, seasonal, weekly, daily demand differences due to fixtures. So, if 2 of the major teams are playing, you get 50,000 people on the ground. If your team's playing one of the lowly teams and there's no real excitement about that, maybe you get 35,000. Well, that's 15,000 people at $30 or $40 a ticket is a substantial amount of money. And so, we need to do things to keep building those numbers up. And season tickets is obviously one of those things. And in terms of the product for sport and recreation, it's intangible. We can't touch it. We can't do anything with it. It's subjective, so everybody sees it differently. My team wins, I'm happy. Your team loses, you're unhappy. Generally produced and consumed at the same time. So we sit there and watch it and we're happy or sad at the end of it. It's inconsistent quality. It's perishable, publicly consumed, and market has no control over the core product, which is the game itself. And that's an issue for us to deal with. Now, when we go through these things, price, it's difficult to price using conventional methods because we have to look at the amount of money people will spend on recreation and consider what they would be willing to allocate to support their local football team, as opposed to going to the movies or going to a concert. Small percentage of total spend is on the core product because we then have food and beverage. We also have merchandise and other things that we would spend money on. And so there's much more money oftentimes spent on product extensions. And there's a recent for-profit focus for most of these sporting organisations, because basically getting attendance at grounds and having staff and security and medical staff available for those sorts of things is quite an expensive exercise. So we look for the other add-ons where we can make our money. Promotion, tremendous media exposure, a lot of it free, of course. It's written about a lot in the papers. It's on television and everything else. And the good news is, in terms of getting sponsors and things, businesses want association with sport. Business owners, wealthy business owners want to be associated with successful sporting teams. And so that alone generates substantial amounts of sponsorship, and it works very well. In terms of place and distribution, produced and consumed at the same time, the atmosphere obviously contributes to the excitement and enjoyment of the game. Product is anything that satisfies a want or a need in terms of use, consumption or acquisition. As we said, with a service or a recreation, it's intangible. As soon as it's over, it's over. Inseparability of production and consumption, and it's produced and consumed at the same time. And the heterogeneity of delivery. Quality is variable, determined by the performer of the service. And perishability, can't be stored and are time dependent. Unfortunately today that's actually not quite true, because it can be stored on television and you can watch it later on. Product life cycle, this is a slide that's very important in marketing courses that we run. A product comes into the market, it is introduced, normally slow to market. You think of new mobile phones, new products. Eventually there's a substantial rise in this to a growth phase. It peaks during maturity, and then eventually it declines as new products come into the market and take over. Now, some products never decline. You think of Coca-Cola, Levi 501, so many of these products have been in the market for well over 100 years, and they continue to sell at large volumes. Vegemite, Kraft cheese, now called Bega cheese, of course, which is good for us. Oops, sorry. So this movement through the marketplace is common for a lot of products. And in fact, if you think about fashion products, this period is basically one season. Product is introduced, let's say a summer product, pair of shorts, t-shirt, swimsuits, introduced into the market. Sales grow very quickly during September, October, November, peak in December, and then they drop away. And by the end of January, not many people are buying new swimsuits. So, this is a seasonal type approach. Apple iPhone, how long is this? 1 year. Every year they replace the models, normally in sort of August, September, and that's the way. As this one goes down, the next one comes into the marketplace. The volume they make these days means that they continue to sell the other one at a lower price, but certainly the other one is going to be there. So 4 phases in the life cycle: introduction, slow sales growth, no profit due to the cost of bringing the product to market. Growth, period of rapid market acceptance, increasing profits. Maturity, profits stabilise or eventually start to decline because you've got a lot of competition, typically in the market efforts to defend the product from competitors and imitators. And then we go through a decline where profits erode because we're just not selling enough to continue to make a profit. And eventually we're probably going to get rid of the product. Price is the amount of money for which a thing is bought or sold. Price is the mandatory or the monetary expression of the value, can therefore be expressed as perceived value equals the perceived benefits less the perceived cost. In general, a product's perceived value may be increased by either increasing the benefits that the product will deliver or reducing the cost. So if you go in to buy a car and the guy says, well, listen, I tell you what, I'll put air conditioning and a tow bar on it, that's increasing the benefits to you. Or if they reduce the cost. Now, if he says, I'll put the tow bar and the air conditioning and I'll reduce the cost by $1,000, that increases the value quite considerably. And that may be enough to get you to buy the car. For consumers, price of a product is the most obvious indicator of cost, hence the need to get product pricing right in the marketplaces that we deal with. Factors affecting demand. Obviously, price, product research and development, advertising and sales promotion can get your product out in the market, and works certainly with sports. Again, because they get a lot of free mention in the media and everything else works very well for them. And training the organisation sales force, how we distribute information, quality of the after-sales service, and what we deliver. Outside the control of the business, price of substitutes, the price of complementary products and services, consumer disposable income, and consumer tastes and fashions, which may have an impact. Some of the price strategies that people might use: charging a relatively high price for a short time where a new or innovative or much improved product is launched onto a market. This is called price skimming, and basically when plasma televisions came onto the market, they were $10,000. The same plasma television today would be $300. So, you know, that's not 30% of the original price, it's 3% of the original price. But because they were expensive, there was not many on the market, very small market at $10,000, they were able to charge that for people who were willing to pay. But as they went into mass production and everything else, the price started to come down, and now it's come down to next to nothing. One of the other things we can do is penetration pricing, where we set the lowest possible price that we can maintain to grab market share. So if I'm going to bring out a new type of baked beans, I can't charge $4 for it. I'd like to, but I can't. I've got to charge about $1 because that's what everybody else charges. And if everybody's charging $1, maybe I should charge 85 cents and try and be less than everybody in the market. And one of the things that we can do quite often, if we've got a good product, is do what we call comparable pricing. If you're not the market leader, then price similarly to the market leader or other competitors, base the price upon a price expectation in the marketplace. We also use other things, prestige pricing, setting a high price throughout the product life cycle to attract an image of quality. Mercedes and BMW do a great job of this, Tesla and others charge a very high price for their products, but they get away with it because the people in the marketplace believe that they're getting quality for the money that they spend. And if you drop the price by $40,000, it would confuse the market. Preemptive pricing, setting a low price to preemptively discourage new entrants to the market. So keeping the market protected, making sure that people can't afford to come into the market because they can't make any money. Extinction pricing, pricing at such a low level as to drive competitors out of the market. And then trading out or contra or bartering, swapping goods and services of equal value with another organisation. And bartering is not as uncommon as you might think. It still goes on quite a bit, and there are barter organisations in the marketplace in Australia. So in terms of distribution, place, on-premise sales involves the sale of your offering using a field sales organisation, visits the prospect's facilities. Direct sales, sales of your offering using a direct in-house sales organisation that does all your selling through the internet, telephone or mail order. Wholesale, sale of your offering using intermediaries or middlemen to distribute your product or service to the retailers for a fee. And self-service retail sales involves the sales of your offering using self-service retail methods of distribution. And full-service retail involves the sale of your offering through a full-service retail distribution channel. So that may go through a wholesaler, then to a retailer, and then eventually to the retail customer. Further thoughts on place. Multiple distribution channels are desirable for a greater hit ratio. However, some products are impossible to do that, and also you can upset the other people who sell your product. So if you want to sell your product via Woolworths and then you set up your own online store, Woolworths are going to say, well, hang on a minute, you're competing against us. We don't want you to do that. But, you know, don't forget traditional sales environments, shopping centres, personal selling, direct marketing. There's many, many ways to sell your product in the marketplace. There's no doubt about that. In terms of promotion, we're going to do quite a bit next session on the media, but communicating the existence and value of the product to consumers, using public relations, advertising, sales promotion, all sorts of publicity and personal selling, and more in next week's section on the media. Promotion is basically communication. We get a message out there, the source of the message, the communication channel, and the receiver. And communication fails when it's encoded incorrectly, decoded incorrectly, or in a manner that is not understood, or noise creeps into the system. But we'll talk more about that in a few days. Push and pull. These are promotional strategies. Push maximises the use of distribution channels to push the product into the marketplace. Usually involves discount strategy to the channel to develop an incentive to move your product. We give our Kodak camera or our Canon cameras to the Kodak shop, and we say, if you sell them, we'll give you a discounted price, And so they promote them, they put them in the front window, they have a big push on Canon, we give sales incentives to the sales guys, we sell a lot of things. But we're basically giving a discount to the organisation to sell. Pull is direct interference with the consumer. And so basically what would happen is I would advertise on television, this is the new Canon camera, you better go into the camera store and get this, because this has so many fantastic features, you just can't live without this. So I'm basically, and then the retailer pulls the product through the system. Retailer says, listen, I've got to have some of those cameras. I see you're advertising. We want them. It minimises distribution channels in the initial phase, massive commitment to advertising, but oftentimes you get a higher price for your product without having to discount it. So our promotional plan would normally be to define our target market, which we did through our research. We would set measurable objectives, determine the promotion strategy, whether it's push or pull, research various promotion ideas, select the promotional approach, PR, advertising, discounts, develop the theme for the promotion. You might have a slogan, you might have a song, you might use a character, be it a cartoon character or a symbolic character like, the St. George Dragon or something like that. And then we create all the support materials. For sports tourism, been around for a long time, since the ancient Olympic Games. Modern sport tourism encompasses three main types of travel and sport participation. Active sport tourism, tourists take part in a sporting activity like golf tours. Event sport tourism, tourist watches a sport event, Olympic Games, FIFA World Cup. Or nostalgia sports tourism, tourists visit sport-themed attractions. Some of the background facts: tourism is the largest industry in the world, according to the World Travel and Tourism Council. They would say that. Tourism is one of the world's largest industries, generating an estimated 11% of global gross domestic product, employing 200 million people and transporting nearly 700 million international travellers per year. A figure that is expected to double by 2020, so that's not that far away. Traveller types: temporary, short-stay tourism, some defined as day tripper, less than 24 hours, but no hard and fast definition. Voluntary, leisure tourists as opposed to business tourists who are non-voluntary. Circular, round trip, ending back at home when the trip is over. Distance, travelling to and staying in places outside of your usual environment. No arbitrary minimum distance. And non-recurrent, time out of the ordinary and journey characterised by novelty and change. So you can go to places that you normally go to, but you will be going there for a different purpose. In other words, for leisure. And non-instrumental, internal travel. Skill consumption. Sports tourists are not homogenous in their motivation. People who choose to take part in sport at certain destinations in certain ways based upon their level of skill in a particular sport. More highly skilled golfers look for more challenging courses to play on. And the thing about that is, more than anything else, it's interesting to play on courses that are used for championships. And as much as you get beaten up by the course, you still feel good the fact that you've played that same course. And particularly on courses where you may have seen players, on television playing in sort of globally major organisation championships. Several of my friends, 4 of the guys from the golf club that I know, are going over to the Masters this year. Not an inexpensive exercise. 2 weeks, including playing at some fairly major courses as part of the tour, $28,000 each. Not a cheap course, not a cheap trip, but, willing to do so. Listen, that's all we've got for today. We'll be back in the next couple of days with the balance of the slides in this set, which will take in media and promotion. And I'm still on email all the time and everything else. and hopefully you've got your assignments well and truly on way, and we'll talk to you soon. So there you go.